All right, tonight, not far from the White House, more big news from the executive branch, where the Department of Justice is busier than ever. In fact, the DOJ, they just sued good old California Governor Gavin Newsom and his state over gerrymandering and his plan, calling it an illicit power grab. Meanwhile, the DOJ is making very serious progress with their investigation into Biden's weaponization of justice. Apparently, even former Speaker McCarthy's phone records were targeted by Jack Smith, and it's growing by the day. Also developing tonight, a new criminal referral against, Mr. Fang Fang himself, Eric Swalwell. Imagine that. Over what? Another possible mortgage fraud issue. And Attorney General Pam Bondi is exploring hate crime charges against those violent anti-free speech rioters at UC Berkeley. Finally, a chilling incident in the state of New Jersey. A person of interest is now wanted for questioning after this individual attempted to confront U.S. Attorney Alina Habba at her office with a baseball bat before destroying property and fleeing the scene. All right, here with more, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi. So great to see you.
Great to see you.
I appreciate it. I know your days are busy. I know you're working, 40-hour days. And it seems like everybody in the administration is.
We can't keep up with the president. We're all trying to keep up with Donald Trump, which is a wonderful thing.
Okay, I got to start in the United Socialist Utopia of California. Gavin
Where do we
Newsom.
start?
Okay, so he wanted to change the rules. They had a commission that would appoint and gerrymander. Tell us about this lawsuit.
It wasn't even illicit. They are flat out publicizing what they're trying to do and why they're trying to do it. They're trying to create seats based on race, and they can't do it. And we're going to hold them accountable just like any other state. I mean, they very publicly said, Sean, what they're trying to do, and it's illegal gerrymandering. They cannot do it. So, yeah, we sued them today. We're going to continue suing California until they start complying with the laws of our country, whether it's, what else, sanctuary cities, the Second Amendment. We're winning in the Supreme Court.
National Guard.
Our ICE, that's exactly right, that the National Guard and ICE can be in California to actually protect the citizens of California. Let's see, what else? Illegal emissions from trucks. And look what Sean Duffy did today. Look what he found with all the truckers who were given illegal licenses, truck driving licenses in California. It's constant with that state.
We saw what happened in Florida.
Right.
I mean, guy couldn't speak English, couldn't read road signs, had a license in Washington State and in California. Sanctuary state status protection allowed him to get that. Should they be held legally accountable for that?
They should. They all should, and California can't do it, and that's why Secretary Duffy today found it, and California pulled 17,000 commercial licenses. I can't even imagine that number of licenses that they pulled, commercial truck driving licenses, because they're letting these people get away with it. And it's not only impacting California, but as you just said, it's impacting the safety of everyone in our country. But we're just going to continue looking at California and everything they're doing. UCLA, anti-Semitism. Harmeet Dillon, right now, as we speak, is in California. I just spoke to her. She's working on, of course, Berkeley. The Antifa riots at Berkeley. That was out of control. I'm sure you saw it. They ripped a cross off a young man's neck before pummeling him.
This is he was wearing a freedom shirt.
A freedom
the
shirt.
that Charlie was wearing when he was assassinated.
Yeah, they had a turning point rally, peaceful rally, not even a rally, just an event.
It was with a pastor, Pastor Turk.
That's right.
Yeah. Let me go back to, what the amazing thing is, we hear about the lawsuits. The administration, you're winning most of them.
We sure are.
I mean, pretty amazing, actually.
Well, we're winning in the Supreme Court. We're not winning in a lot of district courts because we're not. Look at California. Look at the 9th. Look at the 7th. We have some tough district courts, some tough appellate courts, but when we get to the Supreme Court, the right thing happens, and that's what matters. And yes, we're winning, and Donald Trump is winning. We've been sued well over 500 times, I have, since he's been president.
Wow.
And we're prepared. Our Solicitor General, John Sauer, is off the charts, our civil division. We're just
How do you deal with 500
nonstop.
suits at a time? That's a lot.
A lot of attorneys, a lot of great attorneys.
Yeah. Let me ask you specifically. I want to go to the immigration issue because, and I've been trying to wrap my mind around this. If you are in this country illegally by definition, and we have a constitutional clause that gives jurisdiction to the federal government, not to state governments, right? It's called the Supremacy Clause. And they then bypass that with sanctuary city-state status protection and spend taxpayer dollars. They get a lot of tax money from the federal government. I've asked this question. I've never really got the best answer. How is that not aiding and abetting in the law breaking?
It is. And that's why we're looking at all of these cities, all of these sanctuary states. We're suing them civilly. But to go back, look at Antifa again, what we were just saying at Berkeley. That could be material support for terrorism.
Right.
If the university, they put flyers out, they were going to do this, Sean, 2 weeks in advance. They were going to protest, violent protest. So that's why Hannity there. So yes, there are potential criminal charges, but there are civil charges as well. And, you know, we talk about these sanctuary jurisdictions, and people, it jeopardizes the lives of our men and women in law enforcement and the citizens that live there. Because people, if you were an illegal alien, a criminal, a TDA, MS-13, a gang member, where would you go? To a sanctuary city?
Yeah, okay, but groups like Antifa are now a designated terrorist organization. All right, does that do anything? How do we, is there any criminal culpability on the part of politicians that adopt and enforce the sanctuary city provisions or state provisions? I can't imagine there's not. I mean, if I went to the border and I picked up people and I transported them and I fed them and I housed them, I would imagine I could probably be found guilty of aiding and abetting and you know, human trafficking.
We actually charged a judge out west with that, if you don't remember, who was housing a terrorist. You know, we're looking at all that. There's definite civil liability, of course, on behalf of these elected officials and these cities and these states. And we're winning, and we're going to win, and we're going to protect the people of this country.
Yeah. The issue came up today. There were arguments before the judge. This is in, I believe, the Eastern District of Virginia. Lindsay Halligan, a temporary appointment, but a legitimate appointment. And looks like the judge wants to maybe throw out the charges against Comey, for example, on the issue of, well, she doesn't have the right to a temporary appointment. You took very strong issue with that.
We did. We argued that today. Lindsay is a great U.S. attorney. We have great U.S. attorneys around this country. And these judges think that they can control who Donald Trump puts as U.S. attorneys, who the Department of Justice has in place to be a U.S. attorney. It's the executive branch's job to do this. And we're going to fight them. We're going to sue them. We will ultimately win, of course. But yeah, they're attempting to remove many of President Trump's U.S. attorneys around the country. The Comey indictment's going to be just fine. I've also signed on to that, backing up what Lindsay Halligan did, because they're coming after her. I read all the transcripts. She's doing a great job. All of our U.S. attorneys are. The latest
court filings, to me, as a layman, extremely damning as it relates to James Comey and lying before Congress, which, by the way, that's one of the issues that the statute of limitations have not run out. I will tell you, Madam Attorney General, I am afraid of one thing. They tried to assassinate President Trump twice. They assassinated a 31-year-old father and husband, our friend Charlie Kirk. I see what happened out in Berkeley. A guy with a baseball bat is going after Alina Habba. We've both known her for a long time. We see what's happened to Katie and Stephen Miller, far worse than people know. I don't even want to mention what you've been through, which has not been as public. Some of it's been public. Yeah. And it's like, if you're a conservative and you're in the public eye, this is now standard fare. We live in an assassination culture. And I'm not sure, you know, did you see after the election, you know, a week ago, did you see there was a poll that came out that 95% of people think there's going to be another assassination of a political figure in 5 years? Wow.
I sure hope not, Sean. And you know, take it on the other side. Look what happened to Josh Shapiro, just because someone was
Yeah,
anti-Semitic, tried to burn down the
nearly killed
governor's
him.
mansion, and with his babies and his wife upstairs in Pennsylvania. So sure, and we both, of course, pray that doesn't happen. But what we can say is we are finding these people, we are arresting them, and we are charging them. They will go to prison for as long as we can send them. We know who did this to Alina Habba. I saw the video. It's chilling. This guy had a full-size baseball bat pacing like a caged animal in front of her office. Then ultimately he gets up to her office without the bat, but manages to tear apart the front office. And mark my words, he will be in jail and he will be prosecuted. What they've done to Stephen and Katie, we found that person. That person is now charged in the Middle District of Florida. You know, the guy that put the hit on me, they found him. People think that they can be anonymous. They think they can get behind a keyboard.
Oh, it's not easy living. I didn't want to be as specific, but yes, there was a hit put out on you. You're the Attorney General. You know, I look at all of this, and it really, I keep hearing from Democrats, Nazi, fascist, racist, Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini. I talk about it all the time. Is that incitement? Is that dehumanization? Do you believe that impacts unstable people and has a causal effect? I have about 30 seconds.
Yeah, Sean, of course it does. It is freedom of speech, but it does. And in the world in which we live, people have to have more compassion. You know, when conservatives can't walk down the street without getting screamed at, they probably couldn't even define a fascist.
Yeah.
But from the river to the sea, Palestine, they don't know what that means.
Yeah.
It's horrific, and they're inciting violence. You're absolutely right.
It's so good to see you in person. Thanks for all the hard work. Honestly, it's great to see you. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.